You probably think you're in complete control of your decisions and thoughts, but how often are they guided by something else? Something you don't even notice, occurring deep within your mind. Here are 10 cognitive mind traps, fallacies, biases, and other phenomena that exist within your brain. These thinking errors and mental shortcuts that influence your day-to-day thinking. You can't turn them off or delete them from your brain, but being one of the few people that can notice when they arise in your mind and knowing the situations. This is mainly inspired by the works of Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman and his amazing book, Thinking, Fast and Slow. 1. Cognitive dissonance. Imagine you believe that eating vegetables is healthy. This belief makes you feel good about yourself because you are taking care of your health. But then, you really crave a slice of chocolate cake. You know cake isn't the healthiest choice, so if you eat it, you might feel conflicted. This mental discomfort you experience is called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a fancy way of saying that our brains don't like holding two contradictory beliefs or ideas at the same time. It's a kind of mental tension that motivates us to change something, to feel better. In the cake example, you might convince yourself the cake is a small treat. Or maybe you tell yourself you'll go for a run tomorrow to make up for it. These are ways of reducing the dissonance. Cognitive dissonance can be a helpful tool for positive change. For instance, if you're unhappy with your job and realize it goes against your values, like wanting to be creative but feeling stuck in a boring role, the discomfort you feel might push you to look for a new job that's a better fit. Imagine a smoker who strongly believes smoking is bad for their health, yet they continue to smoke, action that contradicts belief 1. This creates dissonance. Now, he has 3 choices. Changing his belief. They might convince themselves smoking isn't that bad after all. Change their behavior. They might quit smoking altogether. Justify their behavior. They might tell themselves they'll quit soon, or they only smoke occasionally. Now, decision depends on which side is stronger, and if the both are same, the third one happens. So, the next time you find yourself feeling conflicted, remember it's just your brain trying to sort things out. By understanding cognitive dissonance, you can use it to make choices that align with your values and goal. 2. The spotlight effect. Imagine you're giving a presentation at work, and you trip slightly on your way to the stage. Everyone must be staring and judging you, right? Well, not exactly. The spotlight effect is our tendency to believe people are noticing our mistakes or flaws much more than they actually are. We feel like we're under a spotlight, when in reality, most people are preoccupied with their own lives and barely register our minor stumbles. This bias can cause a lot of unnecessary anxiety. The next time you feel like everyone's eyes are on you, take a deep breath and remember, they're probably not as focused on you as you think. 3. The anchoring effect. Consider 2 questions. Is the height of the tallest redwood tree more or less than 12 feet? And what is your best guess about the height of the tallest redwood? If one group is asked these questions, their answers will be lower than those of a group asked if the tree is more or less than 300 feet first. The initial number sets an anchor that skews subsequent judgments. The anchoring effect describes our tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we hear when making judgments. This initial anchor can be a number, a fact, or even someone's opinion. Here's an example of how the anchoring effect can be used in sales. A car salesperson might quote a high price initially, knowing most customers will negotiate down from there. The high price becomes the anchor, making the final negotiated price seem like a good deal. The anchoring effect can be helpful for making quick estimates, but it's important to be aware of it so you don't get stuck on the first piece of information you hear. Consider all the available information before making a final judgment. 4. The halo effect. Imagine you meet someone new for the first time. They're dressed well, smile warmly, and strike up a friendly conversation based on these positive first impressions. You might assume they're also intelligent, trustworthy, and kind. This tendency to generalize positive qualities from a single trait is called the halo effect. The halo effect can work in reverse too. If someone seems rude or dismissive at first, we might be more likely to view them negatively in all aspects, even if we have no evidence to support this. Consider two descriptions of people. Alan is described as intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, and envious. Ben is described with the same traits, but in reverse order. Most people view Alan more favorably because the positive traits were mentioned first. The halo effect is when our overall impression of a person or thing influences how we feel and think about their character or properties. First impressions, whether positive or negative, heavily color our subsequent judgments. The halo effect can be a problem because it clouds our judgment and prevents us from seeing people for who they truly are. We might be overly trusting of someone charming but untrustworthy, or overlook the potential of someone who seems shy at first. Here are some tips to combat the halo effect. Be aware of first impressions. They can be powerful, but don't let them cloud your judgment. Look for evidence to support your assumptions. Don't just rely on initial gut feelings. Give people time to reveal themselves. You'll get a more accurate picture of who they are the more you interact with them. 5. The contrast effect. Imagine you're shopping for a new winter coat. You try on a basic black coat that's just okay. Then you slip into a luxurious fur-trimmed coat that feels amazing. When you go back to the black coat, it suddenly seems even plainer in comparison. This is the contrast effect in action. The contrast effect describes our tendency to judge things in relation to each other rather than on their own merits. Something can seem more attractive, expensive, or valuable when placed next to something less so. Here are some examples of contrast effect. A house may seem more spacious after viewing a smaller one. A moderately priced meal might feel like a steal after seeing a much more expensive option on the menu. Marketers often use the contrast effect to influence our decisions. For example, a store might display a high-priced item next to a similar but slightly lower-priced option, making the second item seem like a better deal. They can price tag the lower-priced one with little more expensive than it actually is, because shopkeepers obviously knows this. A similar effect is described in Robert Greene's 41st Law in 48 Laws of Power. Don't forget to check that out too after this. We will put that in the end screen or down the description box. The next time you're making a decision, be aware of the contrast effect. Try to evaluate things on their own merits, not just in comparison to something else. 6. The gambler's fallacy. Imagine a coin is flipped 3 times, landing on heads each time. If you had to bet $1,000 on the next toss, would you choose heads or tails? Many people would pick tails, believing that the streak of heads makes tails more likely, even though each flip is independent and the odds remain 50-50. The gambler's fallacy is the mistaken belief that past random events affect the probabilities of future random events. People often think a deviation in one direction will be balanced out by a deviation in the opposite direction, even though each event is independent. How to avoid the gambler's fallacy? Understand probability. Remember that in independent events, like coin flips, past outcomes do not influence future ones. Think logically. Remind yourself that each event has the same probability, regardless of previous outcomes. Avoid pattern seeking. Resist the urge to see patterns where none exist, especially in random sequences. By recognizing and understanding the gambler's fallacy, you can make more rational decisions and avoid common pitfalls in reasoning. 7. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias describes our tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs and disregard information that contradicts them. Imagine you already believe a certain politician is untrustworthy. When you come across a news article that criticizes that politician, you're more likely to pay attention to it and believe it. However, if you see an article praising the politician, you might skim over it or dismiss it as biased. A common example for this is religions. We will talk about it some other day. How confirmation bias works. Information seeking. We actively search for information that confirms our beliefs and avoid information that challenges them. Interpretation. We tend to interpret ambiguous information in a way that supports our existing beliefs. Memory. We're more likely to remember information that confirms our beliefs and forget information that contradicts them. Medias also do these. They create echo chambers for us, where peoples with same motive and same bias only can hear your words. Confirmation bias can be a problem because it can lead us to make poor decisions based on incomplete information. Here are some ways to combat confirmation bias. Be aware of your own biases. Everyone has them, but the first step is acknowledging yours. Seek out diverse sources of information. Don't just rely on sources that confirm what you already believe. Consider the opposing viewpoint. Even if you disagree with it, try to understand why someone might hold a different opinion. Be open to changing your mind. New evidence can come to light, and it's important to be willing to adjust your beliefs accordingly. By being aware of confirmation bias, we can make more informed decisions and avoid getting stuck in our own echo chambers. 8. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Have you ever learned a new word or bought a new car, and suddenly you start noticing it everywhere? This is the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, also known as the frequency illusion. It occurs when increased awareness of something makes it appear more frequent. In reality, the frequency of these events hasn't changed, but your awareness has. Your brain is excellent at recognizing patterns, and once something becomes relevant to you, you start seeing it more often. How to manage the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Understand the illusion. Recognize that it's your awareness, not the actual frequency, that has increased. Stay objective. Be mindful that this phenomenon can create a biased perception of how common something is. Avoid overinterpreting. Don't assign undue significance to the increased occurrences you notice. Acknowledging the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon can help you maintain a more accurate perspective on how frequently things actually occur in your environment. 9. The Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect is the tendency to remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. This means that unfinished tasks are more likely to linger in your mind, causing you to think about them more often. For example, if you start a project and leave it unfinished, you will keep thinking about it until it's done. This effect can cause mental stress and make it difficult to focus on other activities, but it's actually good. How to manage the Zeigarnik effect. Create a plan. Write down a clear plan to complete the task. This helps your mind relax, knowing there is a path forward. Break tasks into steps. Divide larger tasks into smaller, manageable steps to make progress easier and reduce mental load. Prioritize tasks. Focus on completing high-priority tasks first to minimize the number of incomplete tasks occupying your mind. By using these strategies, you can reduce the mental stress caused by the Zeigarnik effect and improve your productivity and focus. 10. The paradox of choice. The paradox of choice suggests that while having options can be beneficial, too many choices can lead to decision paralysis and dissatisfaction. When faced with numerous options, making a decision becomes more difficult and the potential for regret increases. For example, if you have 24 types of jam to choose from, you might feel overwhelmed and uncertain about which one is best for me. That's why YouTube makes for you page or recommendations. Information overload is a huge problem in this modern era. We will link this video too, if you are interested. How to manage the paradox of choice. Limit your options. Narrow down your choices to a manageable number to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Set criteria. Establish clear criteria for what you need or want before looking at options, making the decision process easier. Embrace good enough. Sometimes, a good enough choice is better than striving for the perfect one, reducing anxiety and regret. By simplifying choices and focusing on what's most important, you can make decisions more easily and feel more content with the outcomes. Now we would like you to like and subscribe our channel. Comment down your thoughts on this. We will glad to hear from you and pin down the best and most inspiring one. Now, after commenting, click on the right of your screen to watch the next video. Peace.